I am going to hello everyone and welcome in another episode where I build open source, basically agent harness, same as OpenClaw or Hermes agents or anything similar to that. So again, difference is that I'm trying to build like a UI around it and make it put in as much visibility to both developers and users as possibly can. So you can uncover and adjust every parameter, every prompt and everything else. So in today's video, I am going to focus on building and testing workflow. I already started doing it and it is failing in many places. The main place that I notice now it's failing, well, I'm going to just go ahead and start doing it and we figure it out ourselves. So I'm going to create new sessions in Product Engineer and I'm going to paste a simple prompt to create test to do a list up. Using workflow. Now I can be very unspecific about the use of workflow, and that right, I'm just going to that is because currently Product Engineer has only one single workflow assigned to him, and that is this one. Well, I can click in. I can show you the workflow. Product intake. And this should literally be named something else. Can I adjust it here? I'm not going to worry about the name now. But yeah, the idea is, as you can see, we've got a workflow where we've got some parameters. The idea is that in the future, we're going to have two workflows, one owned by product owner. That workflow will basically be responsible for getting the requirements for the project, new project or existing requirements for implementation of some features, reworks or bug fixes. The idea is that product owner will kind of do the turns with the user to get a picture and produce something similar to PRD, a product requirement or project requirement document, and that will later be passed over into the workflow that I probably need to change to build change the name to build the specific product feature or whatever. So as you can see, we've got some parameters in here. So if I look at the input, we've got our goal of what we want to achieve. We've got scope and out of scope, acceptance criteria, all the standard things. And then we've got architecture brief. So imagine we've got new the side project. Okay. The tech project state. So we've got basically new requirement coming in. Then we've got a decision to either, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. So we've got basically detect project state, which funny enough, I need to figure out what it actually does. Existing and new. So that is eco existing and new. And what else does it do? That's the settings. Output exist. If a kid repo is present, new otherwise. So why do we need? Seems like there's some weird stuff going on because we basically have this. Inputs, what do we have? We've got goal, scope. Right. So first thing I need to fix is basically, I think somewhere along the way, this wasn't there, and I believe that is causing some issues. So I'm actually going to fix it using OpenDora. So let me create new. I'm actually going to change minds, set up the preferred model. So in OpenDora, I tend to use codex models. So I just authenticated within OpenDora to codex, and I tend to use that model because I can use my plan. It's very generous of OpenAI to do that. So as long as that's available, I'm going to do it. And now what we need to do. Right. Please, can you investigate the workflow? I think it's intake workflow. Right. Right, list all the workflows first. See, I can't even remember, but so you can see mine's basically is my agent that is tasked or limited to manage other agents, workflows, skills, and anything around like ecosystem within OpenDora. So all the tools, descriptions, all the skills and building, managing, getting all the information about workflow. So it's kind of mine's, excuse me, domain. Now we want to so can you make sure this workflow has parameter that defines if it's new or existing, and then we can basically remove the second node because that's the basically parameter that needs to come through from outside. So with the call to the workflow run. So that should be easy change. And while we're at it, let me just duplicate it quickly. Okay, I can switch between the two and you guys are supposed to see it. So let's select a workflow. We're going to select the product intake workflow. And as we can see, we gave it a task to Minds. He decided basically to use the to-do list. He got the workflow using the tool, and now he's updating, probably adjusting. Right. Okay, so now we've got that updated. I'm going to just go in and refresh. And that's perfect. So now what do we have? Let's look at inputs, and then we've got goal, we've got score, we've got acceptance criteria, project state, and that is amazing. Architecture brief. So yeah, so we've got, why this is a, fine. So as you can see, we've used basically OpenDora to update our workflow. I'll be honest with you, it's not always working. That was a simple thing. Sometimes I probably need to work a lot more on the documentation and make sure it's clear enough for each node and how to do what, and give it more examples. But you know, I'm quite happy with what he's done now. So now, as you can see, the workflow is taking the parameters. So there's a set parameters that the agent would need to provide to call the workflow, and in the second you will see how that works. Then we've got the side node. The side node is basically creating conditions and outputting conditions. So and then basically ability to route it to different branches or different routes. And as you can see in here, we've got new or existing, where new is creating the bootstrap. So basically the okay, I'll probably need to look at the descriptions and hide a little bit. So basically what you can see in here is the description of a tool, and the tool is bash. So we're using tool bash in here. And you know, you can see that it's using bash, and that's the description of the bash tool. So it's a little bit long, so I need to find a way to hide it. Again, this is what the agent would see, and the agent would make a decision basically how to use the tool. Now for us, it's not always relevant, especially for the end user. It might not be relevant, but then for the developer who wants to develop a workflow and he sees agents hallucinating or anything like that, it's quite important, because you want to go and see what's going on, what is the prompt. In my opinion, probably that is a little bit too long prompt, because it's filling up the context window and everything else. So I'll probably at some point work to reduce it. But at the moment, I'm just going to figure out, because sometimes there's justification to make sure we put a lot of basically do's and don'ts, and making sure we basically harness the agents to do certain things certain way. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it's good to have a lot of prompt, but again, it kind of it restricts it in definitely one kind of direction. So you don't want to overdo it, and still be flexible, which is a challenge. And at the same time, you're filling up the context window, so it's not always good. But yeah, so where were we? So we've got that basically here. That is bootstrap. So working directory. We do not have working directory here. So we got decision. So we probably need some other stuff. Like in here, we want to populate it with agent and see how it works. Actually, I haven't used many of them. So I'm going to basically use this time and see how it goes. So I'm going to save it. So now what do we have? We have parameters. The parameter should come in as basically state of the project if it's new, existing project, or new. Obviously decision here is basically a node just detecting, like, you know, new, then go this way, existing, go the other way. Okay, so at this point, I think we can just run it. So as you can see, I've got a run button here. I'm going to use product engineer. And we have all that. To be honest, maybe it's not the best idea to do it here. I am actually going to go to product engineer, and we have created session already. So, and I'm expecting, or hoping it will not fail, but expecting it might actually fail. Right. Right. I need you to create a simple to-do app. Very important. You just need to run the workflow. So basically, make sure you populate each workflow parameter, but at the same time, make sure it's state of the product new, and do not do anything past the workflow execution. So as you execute the workflow, just wait for it to come back. Do not take any action after. So let's see what it's going to do. Let's see what it will do. So now we kind of use it in a little bit weird way, because as I said, the expectation is product owner would trigger it. But this is fine. Complexity easy. So again, because we have other skills loaded, like product orchestrator, actually because excuse me, because product owner literally is recreating that skill, I'm going to find product orchestrator. And it's over here. Oh, this is weird. Oh, this is so odd. Find save changes. That is really weird. I'm going to find the product orchestrator again. Product plan, product orchestrator. Right. That's the first thing we can really fix in here, because it's so weird. Right. I am going to use Claude for that. and I'm going to use cascade to dictate. Right, as you can see on the picture, all the cards are perfectly aligned, specifically the radio button. The only problem is a specific card, that is product orchestrator. Product orchestrator card looks like the radio button migrated to the card next to it, and even the description is overflowing. So we need to make sure that things like that are not happening in this card or any other. So let's grab that once it's produced. And put it in here with our picture. To be honest, probably I'm kind of wasting credits. Let me see how many. Yeah, probably I'm wasting credits because that fix could be. Let's try that fix first with cheaper model, and we'll see what it's going to do. So I am going to test a little bit Kimi K2.6. I probably need to take another picture. Oh, the picture is there. Right. No views. Right, while this is going on over there, what do we have in here? So, okay, so we've got that. We need to go here, and let's look at what happened with the contract stopped, bad request posted failed. Okay, let's open this up, and now we definitely go to okay, so find out. Well, actually, do you know what? I think it's a good idea to carry on in here, and maybe. So I've got this error. I have got this error. Let's put it in there. Can you investigate? Okay, that didn't. Can you investigate why we have this error? The workflow should simply go in, decide, right, we've got if it's new or old. We should be able to run the bash. What is stopping the bash from running? like, was there any specific error? I know it failed. I mean, I would expect that we need to pass over um, the path, which we didn't. Like, try to figure out what's going on there. Right, that is very vague prompt. I am going to look at the skills again. Generation. Okay, it's still right. I am going to switch to different model. Right, let's switch to SWE. Can you fix again that didn't work? So apparently this is supposed to be fixed, but doesn't look like it has been. I'm going to look at the workflow again. Right, so we removed that. Let's have a look. Okay. Right. Okay, so running was fine. The stopper was bash bootstrap node configuration plus. So is it well explained on the tool call and parameters to basically effectively pass over work there? Now, this should be like a high level optional parameter, working directory, and I imagine that in our case we would want to give it a name at this stage. So my kind of humble opinion is that this will be passing over an entire criteria from the user. So past that stage, there is very little to none interaction with the agent. So this is basically full requirement scope being passed over to the agent to deliver. So at this stage, we should either know, right, is it existing or is it new? And if it, either way, if it's existing, then basically we need to provide the working directory of an existing project. And if it isn't existing, well, we need to provide working directory of the new project. So both cases, we need to make sure that it's well defined that the agent will populate working directory. So for this specific case, it's almost, for this specific workflow, it's almost like compulsory, but there might be other workflows where we're not working with specific directory, and we don't need to pass it over. So just bear that in mind and make sure that all the tools are adjusted that need to be adjusted, like the tool, the workflow parameters tools and workflow run tool, and or the skills that manage the creation, execution, and everything else around workflows. So let's clear that up, and we can switch now to Cascade or Windsurf. And see what's going on here. All right. So we're updating some tool. What tool do we update? Workflow run, okay. So again, skills. Let's have a look at the skills. Quickly and see what's going on with the skills that we're fixing. Okay, this looks like it's been fixed, most likely. I'm going to go to agents and verify that. I could just see this literally clicked and flipped to another side. Now product orchestra, that was weird. Yes, that looks fixed to me. Mm. Okay. Right. That is very weird because you literally, right, you literally fixed it at some point and now you ruin it. So we still want to use the card. So you need to basically almost like reverse everything up to the point where you replace the card with divs. Why did you even do that? Like, what was the point? And I have to tell you that I think before you touch the settings card, or at least some parts of it, it was already sorted. And now it looks like big poop. Maybe I was not right with this model. What do we have? 30 and 5. Right, why is GPT so expensive compared to Opus? Fine, I am going to use the Opus then to fix it once and for all, because it seems like the cheaper models are just annoying. Right, so what do we have? Okay, so the card still looks odd. So whatever you did, reverse, well, is wrong. So, like, look, this is all the cards, and focus on product orchestrator. It literally has the aeroplane switch button or toggle button switch disappeared, and it is there. It's just on product plan. Right, we've got heavyweights to come in and do some silly change, but fine. Right, this is not this is not bullet point. This is literally the button that migrated from the product orchestrator. So this is literally the problem with alignment of the radio. It's not radio button, it's a aeroplane mode button or whatever. And then as you can see, the description of product orchestrator is overflowing as well. So we need to fix that. There's a specific issue with that, either specific card or something within that card that is triggering that behavior that needs to be sorted. Okay, now, so as we have this sorted, I am going to go back to product engineer. And before that, I will see if we created any folder in here. No, and that's good. I now want to go in and just do that prompt. This prompt again. Make it a little bit smaller. As a product engineer. Right, let's trigger it and see what's going to happen. So run in product workflow parameters and workflow run. Now, it's probably a little bit too odd way of doing things, and I'm kind of in two ways how this is supposed to be handled. But obviously the product, so workflow parameters is basically instructions for the agent prior to run the workflow, so it can see the parameters it needs to provide kind of dynamically. The other way would be registering workflows as individual tools. So each workflow then would become individual tools. I don't know if it's the right way or not. We'll see later. If anyone has any opinions around that, feel free to let me know. So 6 passed, 1 failed. Okay, so let's have a look at what actually happened. So we've got parameters, then we've got bash, workflow directory. So what did we do? Okay, so I decided it was new. Then it went here. Right. Let's have a look again at what do we have here? So we've got parameters, project name, what do we have? Workflow run, wait true. Okay. Right, let's have a look at the problem again. So it looks like, right, let's stop it. It looks like we have a small issue. So the way it passed over the parameter, the work directory or working directory, is it just provided basically the path to the projects folder. Well, this is path where the projects live, but it did not provide any meaningful name. So now imagine that the agent needs to be almost like forced to basically provide a folder name regardless of its existence. So that basically, right, the important thing is for that to happen on the delegation side, because both the agent that is delegating and the receiving agent, they both should be aware where the project will live. So if it's a new project, then obviously the home Mariusz / projects / the name of the new project should be there. Now the question would be if it's going to cause any errors or not. That actually might. But we can negate it by inserting another basically step before, well, basically step within I don't know if it's going to work, but let's try that. Another step within the new branch, so as the first, that checks if the path exists or not, and if it does not, then it creates the folder path. If that errors because working directory has to exist, then we need to find another solution that will basically create it if it doesn't exist, or do something outside of the box. I mean, I don't know. Let's see. No. So look, that made it even worse. So you kind of break words. It looks like that word should be migrated to another line, but it's not. So I give you another picture of actually what you've done. That is, yes, that is nice. So product orchestrator, make it smaller, smaller, smaller. Now make it impossibly big. Keep it at 100% and everything is hunky-dory. Excuse me. Right, so before we move on, I'm going to commit this change. Okay, so we've got another criteria. Why do we need a valid directory before node execution? Just out of curiosity. So how do we, okay, so now the point is that the working directory, then it should not be projects itself. After the creation, we need to set working directory as simple to do app, or else we have either specific node or existing tool that sets up the environment after. So what should we do in that situation? So what I'm saying is rather than kind of setting up working directory, at the stage of, right, keep it as default or pass it over as projects, but once we decide it's new, we have like a node or something that will literally create the folder and override the working directory. So it is important that the workflow works and is aware, and every node, if it needs working directory, it's just picking it up from the working directory. So that should be like universal place where the entire session that is created is aware, we are working in there. This is our place to develop. So we need to find a way to kind of override the sessions environment. We've got update session tool, so we could basically figure out how it works and if it's got all we need, and create a node that basically updates our working directory if it's either live or not live. That's the question, but yeah, something along those lines. Right, so we've got skills, sesh, right. Right, let's have a look at our workflow again. So what tool is this? Input. What did you actually do? It's a command. Right, so okay, so just out of interest, what did you actually do? Right, so we've got that. So the idea is that we're supposed to set the sessions working directory um, as a working directory rather than create another parameter that is basically mimicking working directory. Okay, so what is the reason why um, it cannot override working directory? Okay, that's weird. Right, I need you to help me with this problem. Now, I'm struggling to figure out a good solution to basically resetting sessions working directory while executing the workflow. So imagine that our working directory, or what we set as working directory, is basically the truth, and every tool should reference it throughout the execution of both the workflow and session. And session is basically almost like the log for the workflow. So what I would want you to do is figure out how we can effectively update the parameters of the session while running the workflow, so that we can, within the workflow, basically adjust the working directory or default directory, whichever way you want to name it, in the session, and then from thereafter reference to that working directory while using the tools or nodes within the workflow or session. Let's do plan mode. Okay, so settings. I want you to help me to basically tidy up a little bit the sidebar. We have files on the sidebar, session tree, layout, and preview. This is one section, so there should be a horizontal line dividing it from notifications and settings. Usage and workflow are going basically into settings. Workflow card is already there. What we need to do is create usage card next to basically between general and agents. So to summarize, right, let's just carry on. This should be fairly simple. I don't think that worked. So I'll go usage. Okay, the card is there. Okay. Okay. So as I said, the cards are in the right place now, but we kind of don't want the um, usage and workflows in the side menu. They should be only visible in the cards. So we can remove these two shortcut buttons from the side menu. Keep just notifications and settings, and then the 4 different views. Right, why is it okay? Why is it workflow directory, or shouldn't this be session directory? So think about it. We're working with the underlying session that underpins basically the workflows run. This is not just the workflow, this is entire session. So think about it. Later the user might go in to the workflow session and carry on as normal session. What the fuck? We didn't. Okay, sorry for swearing, whoever is watching ever this. Um, we just need single implementation that is correct. We do not need secondary implementation. Let's fix it so it's proper. We don't need two basically pieces of code that do similar thing and set things differently in different places. What we need is a single source of truth. Okay, so boom. You are Walker. Okay, what errors? Now, do we need a specific node for that? Like, just for one specific thing? No. Did you also adjust the workflow so it works correctly, or do I need to do it myself? Right. I'm I'm kind of thinking this should just be a specific node to override the session's working directory. And from there on, the session, every node, even from the beginning, every node should be using the session's working directory. What the workflow run should do is when it creates the run, when it's creating the session for the run, it should basically use its own working directory to set it up. Now, obviously, this at this stage might be just the project because that's verifiable path. But then this node should just literally go and override the default directory of the session. So we could do it like 10 times. If I want to change it within the workflow, from that moment on, I want to change it to something else. I want to create 10 different projects. I can create 10 different nodes and switch that directory as I go along. Or create some other variables of my choice. Let's not add the variable confusion for now. Okay. Okay, amazing. So we've got complete implementation. So I can literally go now. I'm going to, at this stage, reset. And something's wrong. Can you fix it? Okay. np ban run dev UI. Let's do this and let's stop this madness. Right, so I am going to refresh this guy and this guy. Settings. Right, let's go to workflows and our workflow and see what Claude has done for us. So what do we have? We have, how many nodes do we have? Okay, so we got set working directory, which is a very specific node. Prepare new project directory, so yeah, that's a bash, and we're just saying, right, where do we get the new project from? Never mind. In general, this is a little bit odd because it doesn't have any fields. Right, can you investigate why the newly created node that you have kindly created for me has no input fields that would basically describe the path, at least, that we setting up as the default location? I mean, this should be like a, yeah, like a basic Okay, what's more, I want that to have basically like a setting to create it even if it doesn't exist. Once more, I want it to be able to be dynamic, so I can type in the beginning of the path or even the current, like get the current path from it, insert some text between, and then add the parameter that is coming from the parameters. So, and then basically tick like a box to create and set. So create the location if it doesn't exist, and then set. I mean, we can use bash. Fine. Right, fine. Let's just fix it. Fine, let's not go over. Right, can you just fix the set project working directory so that I can see basically the inputs that you put in. At the moment, I cannot see any fields in there. So okay, I'm just gonna go now and clear that off and restart it again and hope all of that will magically work. So and before we do any of this, I want to see if we don't have any rubbish in there. Interesting. Let's try that again. Alright, so what do we have? Simple to do app. Okay, so nice. We're going as far as creating the folder. Let's look at the session itself. Okay, so let's try to fix that. So I try to, no, this is where, not where I want to do it. Let's close it off. Let's go to here. Right, this is my stuff. Again, set arrow install. This is, we get in there, we get in there. So I got some tool calls which I probably need to figure out how to make it distinct. So it's more of a workflow tool call rather than just a tool call. Oops. Okay, restart the server. So let's do this. Let's clear this. Let's first of all go to simple app, delete it. Let's go to our request. Oops, what happened there? Run it. Oh, what's going on here? Right. Let's see. Okay. Nice. So now we've got our simple to-do app set up, and we carry on. Did not produce structure output, but that's fine, we can fix that. Right, so this is perfect. So we overcome definitely one issue that was blocking the workflow. And now, as you can see, we have basically parameters which are populated nicely. Then we've got decision node that is picking up the parameters and it's deciding if it's a new that is deterministic, basically checking, right, is the case new or existing. Then it basically branches off into creating and setting up the environment, and we should technically see it in here. So we've got simple app and we've got our Vite project set up. Obviously it did not carry on, I imagine, with the plan and everything else. We will cover it hopefully today in another video. But yeah, so it kind of is overcoming one bottleneck, and I am going to conclude the video at this stage because it solved my problem that I aim to solve for now. So doesn't look like anyone did watch, but if anyone will ever watch it, thank you for watching and have a nice day and see you in the next one.